Tyler Glasnow has a partially torn UCL. We have notable pitcher performances and prospects on the way. Let's talk about it next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5. As always, make sure to follow and stream us on Spotify. Today is Wednesday, June 16th. I am Frank Stanfield, joined by Scott White. And yesterday, we spoke about replacements for Tyler Glasnow, Scott. We didn't know the extent of his injury, but per Jeff Passan of ESPN, partially torn UCL for Glasnow, as well as a flexor tendon strain. So what are you doing with Glasnow at this point? How far does he drop down the rankings? And remind the people who your favorite waiver wire replacements are.
Well, I'm continuing to stash Tyler Glasnow because we don't know definitively that he's out for the season. I suspect he will be, usually the rest and rehabilitation route with a partially torn UCL. That's where it ultimately leads, is still the Tommy John surgery. There have been some pitchers who've been able to pitch through it, but it's a short list. So I suspect that's where it's headed for Glasnow, but the impact is so high, you got to continue to stash him. I've got him down in like the 65 to 70 range of my starting pitcher rankings, which is basically the back end of pitchers that I think need to be rostered. So Glasnow is still among them. As far as replacements, look, your best is probably already on your roster. But if you want some extra pitching depth, some of the best ones out there are Tariq Skubal, Logan Gilbert. Mike Minor wasn't so good on Tuesday, but I still like the way he's generally been trending.
All right, let's fire up the Excitometer. This is 1, don't really care much about this. 10, you're like the Jonah Hill gif where he's freaking out. So let's start with Luis Castillo, who was at the Brewers on Tuesday. 7 shutout with 7 strikeouts. And over his last 3 starts, Scott, he has a 1.98 ERA. We have been waiting and waiting for Castillo. Looks like he's kind of back on track.
Yeah, 3 promising starts in a row. The velocity's been up. The swinging strikes have been up. The hard contact he's given up, that's been down. He's generally looked a lot better. This start was the first time I got him back in my lineup, and he performed well. He's pretty much back in the circle of trust for me. I wish he had that one like amazing start with a ton of strikeouts where it would really like punctuate the return to form. But otherwise, he's looking pretty good.
But what is his rank on the Excitometer?
8. Sorry, I forgot the rank. Yeah.
Let's talk about Taijuan Walker, who I need to apologize to because I have not shown him enough love so far this season. 7 innings, 2 runs, 12 strikeouts, which was a career high against the Cubs. What is your Excitometer for Taijuan Walker?
6. I mean, I think he's going to be pretty useful, but the walk rate, it's been getting better. The walk rate's been getting better, but it's high. The whiff rate is low. The ground ball rate is low. I'm not exactly sure how he's getting it done. A lot of soft contact must be the answer. I mean, his xERA, which is a good indicator of that, it's in the 330 range. But the xFIP, it's still below 4. And he's somebody who generally outperforms his xFIP year after year. So, I mean, he's not going to sustain a 2.12 ERA, but mid-3s from this point forward, that's still going to be a pretty useful pitcher, especially if he's averaging right around a strikeout per inning and going deep into games. So I would give him a 6, Taijuan Walker on the Excitometer.
All right, let's wrap up with Frankie Montas against the Angels. 7 innings, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts. It's 2 straight quality starts. He had 16 swinging strikes on 98 pitches, Scott. The Excitometer for Montas.
So I'm going to go about a 7 here, right in between Castillo and Walker. The splitter, 9 of the 16 swinging strikes came on the splitter in this most recent start. And I think it was like 2 starts in a row where the RPM, the spin rate on the splitter, was down about 300 RPM. And that's a good thing for a splitter because that's a pitch you want to drop and you want it tumbling and, hitters swinging over it. So we've seen the effectiveness of the splitter go up as that spin rate has fallen. It's maybe back to the point it was 2 years ago where you had that big breakout, emerged as a fantasy ace. And his ERA is below 350 over his last 9 or 10 starts. So he's definitely trending the right direction.
Let's just quickly talk about a few prospects, Scott, who were promoted, and the Marlins called up Jesus Sanchez. Corey Dickerson was placed on the IL, and Jesus Sanchez was batting .349 with 9 home runs at AAA, and Matt Manning was called up by the Tigers after Matthew Boyd was placed on the IL. Both of these players are rostered in 31% or less of CBS leagues. Where do they need to be added, if anywhere?
Jesus Sanchez, I would say any league that requires 5 outfielders in your lineup, he had he was 1 for 25 in the majors last year, and the minor league track record was so uninspiring that he had basically dropped off all top 100 lists. Obviously been amazing at AAA this year, but kind of slumping toward the end. So I'm not sure what to make of him, but obviously prospect college has let us down a lot recently. So I would limit it to 5 outfielder leagues. Jesus Sanchez and Matt Manning, an ERA over 8 at AAA. His last start was pretty good, but he's been giving up a lot of hits, a lot of home runs. I would say 15 teams or deeper in spite of his prospect pedigree.
For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, your smart speakers, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave a 5-star review on Apple. We'll be back again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.